The House of Whispering Pines. The air in the Appalachian backwoods doesn't move like it does in the city. It's thick, smelling of damp earth and ancient pine. Maya and Chloe had been driving for 6 hours, the pavement eventually giving way to gravel, and the gravel giving way to a dirt path that seemed to be swallowed by the overgrowth. Maya, a photographer with a fascination for the beauty and decay, ignored the nervous tapping of Chloe's fingers against the dashboard. They were looking for the Blackwood Manor, a legendary estate that had vanished from local maps in the late 1940s. As the sun dipped behind the jagged mountain peaks, the sky turned a bruised purple. Then, the car groaned. A plume of white smoke billowed from the hood, and the engine died with a final, metallic wheeze. Total silence followed. The kind of silence that feels heavy in your ears. And there it was, standing at the edge of a dead clearing. The house. It was a massive Victorian structure, its wood blackened by time, surrounded by trees that looked like skeletal hands reaching for the sky. Despite Chloe's pleading to stay in the car, the drop in temperature was too sharp to ignore. They approached the porch, the floorboards screaming under their boots. The front door wasn't locked. It swung open with a gentle push, revealing a grand hallway covered in a layer of dust so thick it looked like gray velvet. They explored the ground floor by the dim light of their flashlights. In the dining room, they found something that made Chloe's blood run cold. 2 plates were set at the long mahogany table. On the plates lay heaps of black, rotting organic matter, what might have been meat decades ago. But the tea in the porcelain cups was still steaming. The vapor rose in delicate curls into the cold air. Maya reached out to touch a cup, but a sudden, violent thud from the floor above made them both jump. It sounded like a heavy trunk being dropped directly over their heads. "We aren't alone," Chloe whispered, her voice trembling. Maya tried to play it off as the house settling, but her hand was shaking as she gripped her camera. They decided to stay together and retreated to the upstairs master bedroom, thinking it would be easier to defend a single room. But as they entered, Chloe caught a glimpse of herself in a floor-to-ceiling cracked mirror. She froze. In the reflection, she saw herself and Maya, but standing directly between them was a third figure, a tall, spindly woman in a tattered lace dress, her face obscured by a veil of wet black hair. Chloe spun around, gasping, but the space behind them was empty. Only the shadows danced in the corners. Panic began to set in. They barricaded the bedroom door with a heavy chair, but the house seemed to react to their fear. The rhythmic thudding started again, but this time, it was coming from inside the bedroom closet. Thump, thump, thump. It sounded like a heartbeat. Maya, driven by a desperate need to face the threat, lunged toward the closet and ripped the door open. Her camera flash went off, illuminating the small space for a fraction of a second. Inside was a girl, her back turned to them, wearing the exact same denim jacket as Maya. When the girl turned around, Maya dropped her camera. The girl had Maya's face, but where her eyes should have been, there were only smooth, pale patches of skin. The entity tilted its head and whispered in a voice that sounded like grinding stones. "You're late for dinner." The lights of their flashlights flickered and died. In the pitch black, the sound of the bedroom door, the one they had barricaded, slowly creaked open. The heavy chair was pushed aside as if it weighed nothing. "Run!" Maya breathed. They scrambled out into the hallway, their hands scraping against the peeling wallpaper. But the house was changing. The hallway that was only 20 feet long now seemed to stretch into infinity. Every door they passed was open, and from every room, the same eyeless version of Maya stepped out, joining a growing procession behind them. They reached the grand staircase, but the steps had turned into a slide of rotting wood. They tumbled down to the foyer, the front door now seemingly miles away. The air was filled with a chorus of whispers, thousands of voices repeating the same phrase, "Stay and feed the house." Chloe spotted a cellar door near the kitchen that showed a glimmer of moonlight through a coal chute. They dived into the dark, narrow tunnel, crawling through shards of glass and decades of filth. Behind them, the pale, eyeless entities reached into the chute, their elongated fingers brushing against Chloe's heels. With a final, desperate surge of adrenaline, they burst out into the cold night air and didn't stop running until their lungs burned. They reached the main road just as a local sheriff's patrol car was passing by. Later, sitting in the back of the patrol car wrapped in shock blankets, the sheriff looked at them with a somber expression. "You girls are lucky," he said, staring at the dark tree line. We get a lot of tourists looking for Blackwood Manor. Most of them find it. None of them ever come out to tell us what the furniture looks like. Maya looked down at her hands and realized she was still clutching her camera. She turned it on and scrolled to the last photo taken in the closet. The image didn't show an eyeless girl. It showed Maya herself, looking directly into the lens, but her reflection in the closet's small mirror showed something else. She was already standing inside the house, waving goodbye. Maya looked up at the forest one last time, realizing with a jolt of horror that while her body was in the police car, a part of her soul was still sitting at that dining table, finally joining the house for dinner.